Hello, I'm Mark Lane. I'm a BBC gardening presenter and a multi-award-winning garden designer. Welcome to my garden. Today I'm going to talk about beautiful roses in your garden. So if you want some tips and tricks, you've come to the right place. The first thing to say is that roses are easy to grow. And here are a few tips and tricks to consider before planting your roses. Hardiness. Modern roses are produced from an amalgamation of rose species, many of which come from far colder regions than the UK and are therefore fully hardy. Position. Rose plants benefit from being planted in full sun. Slight shade in the afternoon is good, but not continuous shade. Planting your plant in a sheltered spot will allow the plant to put more resources into flowering. Your rose will need shelter from cold winds, so a nearby hedge or fence is good, but it shouldn't be too close that it shades the rose. Soil types. Ideally, you want to grow your roses in slightly acidic soil with a pH of 6 to 6.5 and be reasonably rich in plant foods and humus. Roses cannot thrive if the soil conditions are poor. Every plant will eventually adapt to its conditions, but having said that, less than ideal conditions will reduce growth. Waterlogged soils will starve your plant of oxygen, which plays a key role in photosynthesis, cause its roots to rot, and create the perfect environment for many diseases. Similarly, compressed soils can starve a plant of oxygen and water, so don't compress the soil when planting. Aeration can be improved further with mulching. Your rose will need good drainage as it will not grow in waterlogged soil. Preparing the rose. Cut off any leaves, hips or buds that may still be present. If the stems are shriveled, place all of the bush in water for several hours. Cut off any decayed or thin shoots before planting. And you can also plunge the roots into a bucket of water if they seem dry. It's crucial that the roots don't dry out before planting, and I must stress that before I planted this Amber Queen, I had watered it before I put it in. And make sure they remain covered until you're ready to set the bush in the planting hole. Cut back any long or damaged roots to about 30 centimetres. Planting in pots. Patio and miniature roses will grow happily in 40 centimetre pots, while compact ground cover, floribunda and climbing roses will grow better in 60 centimetre containers. Don't be scared also to prune your roses' roots, which is essential prior to planting to encourage fibrous growth. Then apply a mulch and water regularly in warmer months. When planting in beds and borders, leave a distance of about 1 metre between each plant. And when planting, make sure that the bud union is about 2 to 3 centimetres below the surface. This can be easily seen by that slight colour differentiation and a bulge in the stem. Before planting, whether in the ground or in containers, sprinkle mycorrhizal fungi, such as root grow, onto the roots as I did, and into the planting hole. In other words, the roots need direct contact with the fungi. Mycorrhizal fungi helps establish young trees and plants. It's a microorganism with which plants have a symbiotic relationship. A secondary root system develops which helps increase the uptake of water and nutrients. And once this product has been applied, it will last throughout the lifespan of the treated plant, helping to establish them for years to come, improving flowering and of course fruiting season after season. Once you've planted your rose, what do you need to do to care and maintain them? You'll come across the following terms when it comes to caring for your roses: mulching, watering, hoeing, cutting, feeding, deadheading and pruning. I garden organically and I urge gardeners to grow organically, but I fully understand if you need help every now and then with pests and diseases. When planting, caring and maintaining your roses, I advise you wear a good pair of gloves such as these and a pair of clean, sharp secateurs such as these lovely ones from Kent & Stowe. In my garden, we mulch on a regular basis, and roses will benefit from having a layer of mulch on the soil surface around the plants as it reduces weeds, keeps soil moist in summer, improves soil structure, reduces black spot, and some mulching material even provides nutrients. Now, I recommend using shredded bark, well-rotted manure or homemade garden compost and leaf mould, which we make every year in my garden. Before mulching, it's essential to prepare the soil surface by clearing away debris, dead leaves and weeds. Water the soil surface if it's dry, then spread a 5 to 7 centimetre layer around the rows. Mulching also reduces the need for watering and hoeing, but it doesn't replace the need for good feeding. Roses have a deep rooting habit, meaning that watering of established plants isn't really crucial. However, some roses need watering after a few days of dry weather. For example, newly planted roses, climbers growing against walls, and roses planted in sandy soils. All roses will need plenty of water in a period of drought in spring and summer. When watering, use about 5 litres of water for each bush or standard rose and 15 litres for a climber. I know that sounds a lot, but they are thirsty plants. The main purpose of hoeing is to keep down weeds that are not smothered by mulching. Hoeing needs to be done frequently to make sure that the underground parts of the weeds are starved of light. Don't hoe any deeper than 2 or 3 centimetres below the surface, or the roots could be damaged. Roses are perhaps the most popular flower for cutting and using as decoration. To make sure you don't weaken the rose bush, don't take more than 1/3 of the flowering stem with the flower. Using a good pair of secateurs like these, cut just above an outward facing bud. Do not cut struggling or newly planted roses. So I'm just going to show you how to cut to an outward facing bud. You can see on this amber queen that I potted up that we've got this stem growing off here and a young stem coming off here, which is an outward facing. So this will continue to grow outwards. So what you need to do, if this had had a flower or a group of flowers or a truss of flowers on the end, you would cut back down to this. Let me remove that big leaf because you then can't see. Let me just remove him. So now you can see there's this growth here, there's that outward facing bud. You would cut just, that one's in the way now, isn't he? Let me just trim him off. There we are. Now hopefully you can see that. So you see this, I would now trim just above there and slanting going away from the bud. It's as simple as that. Now, roses need feeding because they are hungry plants. Feed every year using a fertilizer containing nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. You can use powder or granular fertilizer, liquid fertilizers or even foliar feeds. It's also important to regularly remove dead blooms, otherwise known as dead heading. So for example, like I just did. Remove the whole truss when the flowers have faded. As I say, cut the stem just above the 2nd or 3rd leaf down. So if we see here, on the wonderful fab at 60, we've got the truss here, which is sort of multi-flowers at one end. You would go down 1 leaf, you would go down 2 leaf, possibly 3 leaf, and then you would cut off. Now, this will help the rose to conserve energy. Now, pruning is also essential for healthy roses. If they're not pruned, the rose becomes a mass of live and dead wood. The purpose of pruning is to get rid of the dead wood each year and encourage the regular development of strong and healthy stems, which in turn means more flowers. Always cut, as I say, in a sloping direction away from the bud so that rain will run off the cut and not soak the bud, which can cause rotting. Also remove dead, diseased, dying and crossing branches. Don't leave cuttings on the ground, but remove them and either burn them or add them to your garden waste collection. What you want to aim for is a lovely open goblet shape. Make sure your secateurs are always clean and sharp and disinfect them before moving on to another plant. The best time to prune roses is in late winter or early spring, around the time new growth begins. Now this could be as early as January or as late as May, depending on the weather. So by following these simple steps, tips and tricks, you can enjoy your roses for many years to come.